Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dan, and this is Forlorn Hobbies.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now, today sees us returning to our Russian Napoleonic series, which we initially started for Under Eagles to Glory in 2025. Now, long-time viewers will know that we failed spectacularly in getting everything ready for that event, but I have been working on it in the background, even if it is just a little bit here and there. Now, today's video is focusing on something that's a little bit extra to the project in the form of casualty figures. Now, in most war games, a unit will have a certain number of wounds or hit points that will need to kind of be tracked throughout the game to determine the amount of damage that it has taken. And there are as many different ways to track this as there are paints in a range, I would say, from dice, tiddlywinks, loom bands, to specific measuring counts and tools, pen and paper even. But for this project, I have chosen to use some MDF tokens that are like kind of on a dial that will track the amount of damage that the unit has taken. And specifically for black powder, once a unit has taken all of its stamina, it becomes shaken. So there are a number of different types of these styles readily available online from various manufacturers, such as war bases, etc. But these ones that I will be using was created by my good friend Chris from Vital Ground Creative, a small independent kind of hobby business that he likes to do in his spare time. Now, when I was talking to him about these measures, I was like, I would like to have something that tracks specifically shaken. So on the dial, we kind of discussed it, and the numbers go down from 7 to X. Now, X is good because it can represent shaken in games terms quite easily without having to add further tokens to the table, when in black powder, having lots of tokens can quite often get out of hand. So if you want any specific needs, I'm sure if you were to just find Vital Ground Creative on Google and send him a message, he'll be more than happy to help. Now, obviously, this is a hobby, so we're not just going to leave it as a plain bit of MDF on the table. We're going to spruce it up a little bit by doing what we do best and paint more miniatures than necessary for our project. Now, when putting together this army, there's a lot of rank and file troops because of the mass scale size of black powder games, where the less kind of character involved in the miniature, the better, really, because it's lots of blank masses rather than dynamic hero kind of poses that you'd find more suitable for skirmish games. Now, whilst for like muscle memory and stuff, having hundreds of the same miniatures to paint is a good thing. For that kind of inspiration to keep you going, you want to paint something a little bit more dynamic. Now, this can be the odd general here or there or command group, but looking at various manufacturers, you're kind of closing the door on a lot of more niche but quirky miniatures that you can paint and include in your games. Now, I'm specifically focusing on the Perrys for this project because of some weird internal OCD that doesn't really allow me to mix and match miniature ranges for some reason. And just looking through, there's quite a lot of interesting characters that you wouldn't normally see on the tabletop. Now, this is looking most likely at the Russian peasants that are armed, and kind of they're quite dynamic miniatures. And I thought, what better way to have an excuse to paint them than to use them as part of this kind of wound tracking system, just to make it stand out a little bit on the tabletop. And because there is an abundance of character within these minis and sculpts. Now, I've also tied in the casualty figures. Interestingly, I opted to go with the French casualties from the Retreat of 1812 in the Perry's range because they suited more the overall aesthetic that I was planning for the army. Being winter themed, obviously, with the greatcoats. The Russian casualties they do are really nice miniatures, but they're all dressed in their uniforms, and it would look a little bit out of place. I mean, that's not to say that I probably won't add a couple of them later down the line, but I wanted to kind of really build into that kind of snow basing, and I don't know, having someone that looks like they're on campaign in the summer traipsing through the snow without their greatcoats and everything kind of seemed a little bit off to me visually. So the French ones, they're all well dressed and covered, so I thought this would be a good reason to include them as well. And I think crucially, from a hobby perspective, including these extras gave me a good kind of palate cleanser for like the kind of long slog of churning out line infantryman after line infantryman. It allowed me to kind of cleanse that palette and paint something a little bit different, add a bit of color that wouldn't necessarily get into the kind of main kind of army look, and just have a little bit of fun painting something without the pressure of, oh, is this buckle painted in a certain way? And just to kind of enjoy that kind of painting experience and then go, right, let's get back to work on the main stuff. And, was very kind of keen to just give myself that little break from painting the line battalion. So I'd paint a battalion of infantry, and then I'd paint a handful of casualty figures just to kind of freshen things up, so that when I went back to the next battalion, it wasn't as daunting as, oh, I've got to paint another load of these. It was, oh, okay, I've had a bit of a break, I've come back, I'm going to carry on and paint some more. And I think that helped me make as much progress as I did. I didn't finish the project, obviously, but using that method, I finished 5.5 battalions out of 8. So it wasn't as if it was too far off of the end goal. I just ran out of time, and I've been quite busy ever since. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to get back on and really see some progress with this project now that I've finished off a few more of these casualty figures recently, and hopefully that's got me back into the swing of things, so that before we know it, there will be a finished Russian army on the tabletop. So I'm very pleased with how these have turned out, and just really finishing them off as well has kind of just given me that extra little bit of motivation to crack on with this project. So hopefully the next update will be out in less time than you have had to wait for this one from the last one. Not quite sure what that will be, but I am thinking Cossacks at the moment. So hopefully I will be able to get those done relatively quickly and get them out sometime in the next kind of couple of months. So thanks for listening, and I will see you all in the next one.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Until next time, enjoy your hobby.